Welcome to The Book Table. This channel is about ideas that don't shout, but quietly stay with you. Here, we don't rush through books. We talk about them slowly, clearly, and honestly. Today's book is Atomic Habits, a book that looks simple on the surface, but slowly changes how you understand discipline, progress, and identity. You don't need to take notes. You don't need to agree with everything. Just listen and notice which ideas follow you afterward. Let's begin. When people hear the title, Atomic Habits, most of them think this is a productivity book, something about routines, morning habits, daily discipline. Is that what this book is really about?
That's what most people expect. But Atomic Habits isn't really about habits. It's about how change actually happens. Habits are just the entry point. The deeper subject is identity, systems, and time.
We live in a world that celebrates big moves, big decisions, big motivation, big transformations. Why are we so attracted to drastic change?
Because big changes feel meaningful. They give us emotional relief. If I decide to change everything at once, I feel powerful, even before anything actually changes. Small changes don't give that feeling. They feel almost insulting to our ego.
That explains something interesting. People often say, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. Why is that mindset so common?
Because it protects the ego. If you never start, you never fail. Small habits expose you to reality. They force you to face the fact that progress is slow, and that's uncomfortable.
Let's clarify the title itself. What does atomic actually mean here?
Atomic means two things at the same time. First, small. Second, powerful. An atom is tiny, but it's also the source of massive energy. Habits work the same way. One small habit feels meaningless, but repeated over time, it compounds.
People understand compound interest with money, but they don't apply it to behavior. Why?
Because the results are delayed. Bad habits feel good now and hurt later. Good habits feel boring now and help later. Our brains are wired for immediate rewards, not long-term outcomes.
That's interesting. So habits are happening quietly, but results show up much later.
Exactly. Results are a lagging indicator. Your habits today are shaping your future self, not your present mood. People quit because they judge habits by today's outcome, not tomorrow's identity.
This brings us to one of the most quoted ideas in the book, goals versus systems. At first, it sounds obvious, but it's deeper than it looks.
Very much so. Goals are about winning once. Systems are about continuing. A goal sets direction. A system determines progress.
That sounds controversial. How can goals be dangerous?
Because goals create a momentary mindset. Once you reach the goal, motivation drops. The system is what keeps you going after the excitement fades. If you focus only on goals, you risk returning to old habits once the goal is reached.
This brings us to one of the most quoted ideas in the book, identity. Why is identity so central?
Because behavior follows identity. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who tries, your habits will reflect that. If you see yourself as someone who shows up, your habits change naturally.
Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they can't stay consistent. Why is consistency so hard?
Because consistency requires patience, and patience doesn't feel productive. People want proof before commitment, but habits require commitment before proof.
So the point isn't massive effort, it's repeated evidence.
Exactly. You don't need to impress yourself. You need to convince yourself. Small wins are persuasive.
Why do you think Atomic Habits resonates so much with so many people across cultures, ages, backgrounds?
Because it removes pressure. It tells people they're not broken. They don't need more willpower. They need better systems. That's a relief.
If someone is listening right now and thinking, okay, but where do I actually start? What would you say? Start by lowering the bar. Make success easy. You don't need intensity. You need repeatability. In the next part, we'll break down how habits actually form, not theory, structure, how cues, cravings, responses, and rewards shape behavior without us noticing. That's where habits stop feeling mysterious and start feeling manageable. This was just the foundation, not instructions, understanding. In the next part, we'll look at how habits quietly control daily life and how to work with them instead of against them. This is the book table. All right, let's dive deeper. Clear, what does atomic really mean in this context?
I use the word atomic very intentionally. An atom is the smallest possible unit, but when atoms come together, they create something powerful. Habits work the same way. A single habit may feel insignificant, but repeated consistently, it shapes your entire life.
Interesting. So most people want massive results, but they ignore tiny actions, right? Interesting. So most people want massive results, but they ignore tiny actions, right? Let's make that real for the audience. Imagine this. Today, you read 1 page. Tomorrow, another page. Then 2 pages. Then 3 pages. It feels too small to matter, but after 6 months, you become a reader. Your brain accepts a new identity.
Yes, and for me, identity is everything.
So it's not about goals?
Goals are not the answer. Systems are. People often say, I want to lose 10 kilos. I want to be rich. I want to learn English. Winners and losers often have the same goals. What separates them is their systems. Goals give direction. Systems create progress. Without a system, a goal is just a wish.
That's a really powerful idea.
Absolutely. This is where most people fail. They focus on outcome instead of identity.
Identity-based change. Tell us more.
There are 3 levels of change. Outcome, what you want. Process, how you do it. Identity, who you believe you are. Most people start at level 1. Real change starts at the identity level. You say, I am a healthy person. I am disciplined. I am someone who learns. Once identity changes, habits follow naturally.
That's powerful. Every habit then becomes what exactly?
Every habit is a vote. Every habit you perform is a vote for the person you want to become, or against that person. Worked out today? You voted for I am healthy. Stayed up scrolling all night? You voted for I am careless. One bad vote doesn't ruin you. What matters is which side wins over time.
That explains a lot, but why do bad habits come back even if we know they're harmful?
Because the habit still serves a purpose. Even bad habits reduce stress, give temporary comfort, kill boredom. The problem is not willpower. The problem is lack of a better alternative. You don't delete bad habits, you replace them.
Makes sense. Earlier you mentioned the 4-step habit loop. Can you walk us through it?
Of course. Every habit follows 4 steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. This framework is the foundation of the entire book. If you can control even 1 step, you can control the habit.
So basically, big changes come from tiny repeated actions.
Exactly. Focus on identity, not outcomes. What you do every day is shaping who you become.
All right, let's go deeper. Last time we talked about identity, systems, and small changes. Now I want to understand how habits actually work in practice. Claire, you mentioned a habit loop before. Can you explain it clearly?
Sure. Every habit, good or bad, follows the same 4-step loop: cue, craving, response, reward. This loop is constantly running in your life, whether you notice it or not.
Let's slow it down. What exactly is a cue?
A cue is a trigger. It tells your brain something is about to happen. Cues usually fall into 5 categories: location, time, emotional state, other people, previous actions. For example, you wake up, check your phone. You feel stressed, eat junk food. You sit in your car, play music. The cue starts the habit.
So the cue isn't the habit itself, it's the signal.
Exactly. It doesn't force you to act, it just grabs your attention.
All right, what's next?
Next is craving. Craving is the desire behind the habit. You don't crave the habit itself, you crave the result. For example, you don't crave scrolling social media, you crave entertainment or distraction. You don't crave brushing your teeth, you crave clean mouth and comfort. Cravings are emotional, which is why habits can be so hard to stop.
Got it. So habits aren't logical, they're emotional.
Exactly. Without a craving, there is no habit.
Then comes the response, right?
Yes. The response is the actual behavior. Whether you act depends on two things: how motivated you are and how easy or hard the habit is. This is why environment matters more than motivation. If a habit is easy, you'll do it even with low motivation.
So discipline isn't about strength, it's about design.
Exactly. Disciplined people aren't special, they just remove friction.
And the last step is reward.
Yes. Reward tells your brain this behavior is worth remembering. Rewards satisfy cravings, release dopamine, and make habits stick. If a habit isn't rewarding, it won't last.
How do we intentionally build good habits?
Follow the 4 laws of behavior change. The first is make it obvious. Can you give an example? Sure. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow. Want to drink more water? Place a bottle on your desk. Want to practice guitar? Keep it in the middle of the room. What's obvious gets done. What's hidden gets ignored.
So the environment silently controls behavior.
Yes, your surroundings shape habits more than intentions.
What's habit stacking?
It's attaching a new habit to an existing one. After I, current habit, I will, new habit. Examples are, after I pour my coffee, I will read 1 page. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 1 minute. Old habits act as anchors for new ones.
Many people start motivated but quit. Why?
Because they start too big. The goal is consistency, not intensity. Start small. 2 minutes of practice, 1 page of reading, 1 push-up. Master showing up first. Repetition builds identity.
Let's recap. Habits follow a 4-step loop. Environment beats motivation. Make good habits obvious and easy. Start small and repeat daily.
Remember, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Change your system and your life will follow.
Clear, why is attraction so important when building habits?
Because humans are driven by anticipation, not results. What we expect to feel is often stronger than what we actually feel. If a habit feels boring, painful, or forced, you won't stick to it. But if it feels attractive, you'll repeat it naturally.
So this explains why people know what's good for them yet still don't act on it.
Exactly. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is emotion.
You talk a lot about dopamine in the book. Most people think dopamine is about pleasure. Is that true?
That's a common misunderstanding. Dopamine is not about pleasure. It's about desire. Your brain releases dopamine not after the reward, but before it. That's why habits are powered by anticipation.
So the excitement before scrolling social media is stronger than the feeling after.
Yes, and that's why habits form so quickly in the modern world. Apps, junk food, notifications, they all hack this system.
How can we use this mechanism in a positive way?
One powerful strategy is called temptation bundling. You pair something you want with something you should do. For example, only watch Netflix while exercising. Only listen to podcasts while cleaning. Only drink your favorite coffee while studying. You train your brain to associate good habits with pleasure.
That makes self-improvement feel less like punishment.
Exactly. If it feels like punishment, it won't last.
Another powerful idea in your book is social influence. How do people around us shape our habits?
We naturally imitate 3 groups: the close, the many, the powerful. If your friends read books, reading feels normal. If your circle exercises, exercise feels expected. Habits are often a signal of belonging.
So sometimes we're not lazy, we're just in the wrong environment.
Correct.
Change your environment and your habits will change automatically.
Now let's flip the system. How do we break bad habits?
You don't fight bad habits with willpower, you redesign the system. To break a habit, you reverse the laws. Let's start with the first one. To break a bad habit, remove the cue. Delete distracting apps. Keep junk food out of the house. Put your phone in another room. If you don't see it, you don't crave it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
What does make it unattractive mean?
It means changing the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, I'm giving this up, say, this habit is harming me. Focus on long-term pain, not short-term pleasure.
So it's a mindset shift.
Yes, change the story and the craving weakens.
Damien keeps coming up again and again.
Because it's the foundation. When you say, I'm trying to quit smoking, you still see yourself as a smoker. When you say, I don't smoke, your identity changes. Behavior follows identity.
Let's summarize this part. Habits must feel attractive, dopamine drives anticipation, use temptation bundling, environment and people shape behavior, break bad habits by removing cues and changing identity.
You don't need to become someone new overnight. You just need to make better choices more often. Small changes repeated daily reshape your life.
Powerful insight. Clear, thank you for breaking this down so clearly. What I personally take away from this book is simple. Habits are not about being perfect, they're about being consistent.
Exactly. You don't change your life in one big moment. You change it through small choices you repeat every day. Success is not the result of motivation. It's the result of systems you follow even when you don't feel like it.
And that's the real power of Atomic Habits. Not dramatic change, not overnight success, but small actions that quietly shape who you become.
If there's one thing I'd like people to remember, it's this. Every habit is a vote for the person you want to be. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to keep showing up.
That's a perfect place to end. Thank you for being with us at the book table. If this conversation helped you understand habits more clearly, take what you learned today and apply just one small change. We'll see you in the next conversation.